they've changed completely since this happened. It's altered them in such a way. I think that breaks my heart more than anything. I'm grown. Like I have. I mean, granted, it's awful for me too, but they're babies. They're children. And it's hard to see.
Yeah, especially the children you raised together, and when you see that shift in personality, that would I personally have never felt that, and I don't act like I have, but seeing your raw emotions, you can see how. And I think what I really would like to get from this is anybody watching this is understand that if you are contemplating this act and you have children and a family, please know that that pain doesn't end with you. If you think leaving this world due to the pain makes the pain go away, it doesn't.
It transfers it.
Yeah, it transfers to our families that just as we're talking to right now. So we do want to take a pause right here and say, hey, if you're in that dark spot, please listen to these words. Listen to the courageous words that Alexa's talking about, and let it and just let it make a change in your life, because the the families are never the same. This pain transfers to them. So today we're welcoming Alexa DeLambert, the widow of Sergeant Clinton DeLambert, United States Army. Before we go into some of the statistics, can you go over, get a brief introduction to yourself and how you met Clinton?
That one's fun. I'm Alexa DeLambert. Um, so how I met, so we were both recently divorced. This was our second marriage each. And in 2012, I mean, the way to meet people was usually online. So we met on an old app called Plenty of Fish. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
and he was very persistent. So he asked me on about 5 or 6 dates, and I kept turning him down until I finally caved in. So he was very, very persistent. And that's how we met.
Well, that's that us older generations, we remember that app, that
Yeah.
platform. Before we start, we always thank you for your courage, because there's a lot of families out there in your position that have lost warriors to this, that don't feel that they're not comfortable talking about it just yet.
Yeah.
And there's a stigma surrounding suicide in our communities, and that's another goal of this series, is to how do we desensitize this stigma where we show families it's okay to talk about it. And that's what we hope to do here. So I'm going to go over some statistics real quick, of why Heroes in the Sky exist, why our families are important. And when we get done with that, we'll ask a few questions about it. So on average, we lose 44 veterans a day to suicide, 24 from direct suicide, and 20 from more overdose related. That 22 a day it's great. It's a national moniker, but it's completely skewed.
Yeah.
It's way, the facts are way off. Um, and so we bring light to the 44. We rarely use the 22. Because I want yeah,
Do that if I could. So, with every suicide, veteran or not, for every one suicide, 60 people are affected on average. So, if you add that in, you're looking at more than 3,000 people a day who are affected by veteran suicide.
absolutely. And that's one of the, we really think bringing that up, because that some of these things a lot of people aren't aware of. They're not aware of the ripple effect that suicide has on families and communities, and what it really does. Um, Another key piece that we talk about is a lot of our veterans within the suicide epidemic stem to one conflict, and that's the global war on terrorism. That one conflict alone has produced 4 times more suicides than what we've lost in the line of duty. 4 times more from that one conflict.
Yeah.
And it's
It's
eye open. What's that?
just it's systemic at that point. There's like
It
there,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, it's eye-opening too, because that's look at all the warriors that we're seeing, not to say that our older populations don't struggle, but a lot of the affected warriors have served in that conflict.
Yeah.
And so it really is I call it an uncomfortable rate,
Mhm.
because when you read that and you hear that, it makes you uncomfortable.
Yep.
But how do you feel hearing that? How do you, because one of our goals is to use uncomfortable statistics in education to create uncomfortable conversations.
Yeah.
So how do you feel by spreading statistics like this and hearing these high suicide rates and these figures? How does that play into the tough conversations?
I'm actually pretty aggressive myself. I am very adamant and aggressive in this fight because my thought is if there were 40 active duty military personnel a day getting murdered, it would be a massacre. But because it's happening on our soil, it's a Monday. So, and that's my go-to. That kind of smacks people in the face when they hear that because it's true. Like if you heard that on the news, you'd be like, no, they're dying in mass casualty events, but because it's here and you're not hearing about it, it's literally a Monday.
Right. Yeah, and then we see this every day with the way our society's going with violence.
Yeah.
And it makes national news when we lose 10 to 15 people in a mass shooting,
Yeah.
or any of this other stuff, but we're talking about 44 veterans a day. And then not only that, you're talking about we have an updated statistic about with what the community affects. So one of the big things we push is every suicide done by research. If research has shown every suicide affects five family members,
Mhm.
up a minimum of five,
Yeah.
and 135 community members.
Wow, that's much larger than I thought. But
That's
yeah.
that's 140 people.
Yeah.
140 people that are affected by suicide once one's lost to this epidemic.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Now, exactly like you're saying, if this was to violence or anything other than suicide due to mental health, this would be all over the news as, oh, we have a problem, that we need reform. But where's the reform at when we need it for the mental health side?
Exactly. That's the ultimate question.
Yeah, and that's why we exist as heroes in the sky. We are aggressively trying to approach these hard questions, these hard answers that people they don't want to focus on it, because if you focus on these statistics and you respond to these statistics, that means that uncomfortable account of conversations create you to have some kind of accountability for this. And that's where we want our programs to go, is we want to push people to the edge where they feel uncomfortable enough to start taking some accountability for the warriors we're losing.
Yeah.
And so, and one of the other ones, what I really want to touch on, because it directly affects your situation, is parents who lose a child to suicide. Not, this is in both, right?
Mhm.
Parents and spouses. So in the family environment, parents who lose a child to suicide face twice the risk of dying by the same fate. And widows, especially female widows, are three times more likely to die by the same fate once losing a warrior to this. So how does it make you feel hearing that, knowing that is your life, that you're dealing with that uphill battle?
Um, so it's valid. It's very valid. Uh, it's almost, I don't know, it's kind of, it validates my feelings, but also, I don't know how to say this. It's just valid. I've yet to speak to someone that is faced the same situation as me that didn't feel that way at some point in their healing journey, essentially. So it's valid and eye-opening.
Especially in those sincere, immediate moments following.
Yeah. It took
You
me about
when
6 months to get out of that. And it wasn't necessarily suicide as much as it was. secondhand suicide where I didn't want to physically hurt myself, but I wasn't trying to protect myself from not dying. I put
Right.
myself in awful situations where if this if he was still alive, I would have never even thought twice to do. So it's it's very valid.
The secondhand attempts people don't talk about either.
Yeah.
We only report the firsthand successes,
Yeah.
right? The more lethal means, the weapons, the overdoses, right? So we're only reporting those numbers.
Yeah.
But as a veteran myself from the global war on terrorism, from that conflict that's produced 4 times more suicides than what we've lost, right? I can honestly say that people don't take into account the secondhand attempts.
No, and more often than not, you'll see those. And now looking back, you'll see those as signs and you miss them because of whatever reason. But I've seen that in more veterans than I'd like to count. It
Hmm.
just seems to be you look at it as part of, it's considered,
Right,
normal in the
right,
veteran community. They all experience that, but it's not normal.
right. And so, what are some of the signs that you've seen, like in the veterans that you've encountered? What are some of those secondhand attempts, signs that you've noticed after losing your beloved warrior to this? Did it heighten some senses for you?
Yes. So, heavy drinking, that's a big sign. That's not normal. To the point of blacking out, which I've seen a lot of. And before I was like, everybody's just having a good time. They're not having a good time. If you're blacking out, you're running from something. Um, Irritability, the change, you just want to keep changing everything all the time, not having any real sense of like you want to protect yourself.
Right,
They put themselves in danger all the time for fun. It's not for fun.
right,
It's not.
right. It's so what it is, it's adrenaline.
Yes.
I lived 27 months of my life off of adrenaline because
Yeah.
that's the amount of time I spent in the combat zone. And so it's adrenaline because I will I will say that when you spend time over there in that conflict to become see you the issue is you cannot become complacent because
Yeah.
what they tell you is complacency kills, right? So you become complacent and then you've lost you're falling in the line of duty or something like that, right? Complacency kills. So over there, what most of us do, and I'm pretty sure Clinton did it as well. It's a typical thing for us to when we're deployed and we're in heavy combat is we keep ourselves from becoming complacent by adrenaline. So we put ourselves in harm's way. You
Yeah.
know, you volunteer for that. I can't tell you how many times I volunteered to go, hey, I want to go behind the 50 cal. I want to go into detainee holding operation. I want to go, hey, we're going to Baghdad. Let's go. All these things you put yourself, and I did it for the same purpose. People thought it was, oh, he's gung ho. No, I was miserable. I
Yeah.
was miserable mentally and I wanted to die. And that was the only way I could figure to do it because I didn't have the courage to do it myself. And so I like talking about this stuff with people because I want people to be aware of it. Like here, a lot of the stuff people do, like there's times where people will put themselves on a treadmill knowing they have a heart condition
Yep.
to stress their heart out to achieve the mission, right? There's times where you'll put yourself in a convoy because you know it's a dangerous route. You know there's IEDs, you know things are going to happen. So hearing that, do you think and kind of seeing Clinton in the last few stages before he left us, did you see any of that? Do you think some of that was present?
I think actually I think the adrenaline wore off is what I saw. The adrenaline wore off and he was tired. He was so tired at the end. Is the only way I can describe it. I don't think he could keep up the adrenaline anymore. His back was giving out. He had spinal stenosis. He was he want I it's like almost it is a drug in your brain. It is. And he was losing the addiction to that. He couldn't keep up with it anymore.
it's I like the way you worded that, like how powerful the adrenaline is, because I don't think a lot of people understand that.
No, they don't. It
And
literally
then,
has a chemical release in your brain, and it's a drug.
right. And I think what's important to talk about here is too is his declining health conditions,
Yeah.
with his back. And um do you feel like he the lack of, I guess, his control with to monitor his body and to keep up with his body played a role into the decision that he ultimately made?
It did play a role, yes. He was always very fit, very active, and he just couldn't even get off the couch without doing what we call the old man bend, where his body was stuck and he had to straighten it up. Like I
Right.
made fun of him and we'd laugh about it, but I know it bothered him so much.
Yeah. And it's good to talk about this stuff too, because we don't know who's listening or who's going to watch this when it airs. And we want to make sure that if they see some of the same signs, that they see it as not a symptom, but more of a flag,
Yeah.
right? Like, is
Something to
this
look
something?
into. Like, is this
Yeah,
something that could bother him? And create a conversation about it. So like, hi, this girl named Alexa told me the same story.
yeah,
Are you having those same issues?
right,
That's how I want to do this.
right. And and that will, when people watch this, your courage will show through. Dealing with the loss that you have dealt with, you're going to impact so many other lives. We always like to tell people that, because especially families like yours. Because I can't imagine how many families there are out there that aren't reporting, that have probably dealt with this loss, but they're not reporting it due to the stigma.
Yeah.
And and quietly they're battling, and silently they're just suffering on how to deal with some of this stuff. And I think your voice can carry, and hearing you talk about this stuff will make a major impact. Um, so these statistics we just talked about, the last one I want to put up here is veterans as a we do it by trauma populations, but also by careers, right? A veteran has a 57.3% greater risk for suicide than the general public. That's a staggering, that's almost 58%.
Yeah.
So when you look at that in context, it's alarming, because every veteran that wears that uniform and serves this country puts themselves in an exclusive group that no one wants to be in. You're put yourself at a 57.3 greater risk of losing your internal war than you did before. So when you hear that, what do you think about that? Like, what part of the being a veteran or being serving, what do you think contributes to that 57.3 suicide rate right there?
So like, are you saying like what's happening to them to make,
Mm-hmm.
okay. So it's just a lack of care. It boils down to a lack of care and from our VA. They're, I mean, I want to say, I don't know the statistic on this, but I want to say 30 to 50% of those are being medically discharged with a mental health issue. How many of those are being checked up on?
Right.
How many of those are even sent a letter that says, hey, thinking of you from the VA, thank you for something? They just get tossed. So their whole mission and what they did is
Right.
nothing. It's not
Right.
being recognized except for, people with hashtags, which can put, and not to say don't do that, because yes, support them in any way you can, but I guess it could almost, they're defeated.
Right. It is. It's a moment of defeat.
Yeah.
And then we're discharging people, our valiant warriors that we don't know some of them served in different areas of operation, some of them didn't, some of them saw combat, some of them didn't. But either way, we are booting them out the door saying, hey, okay, no, you're a civilian, but
Figure
we
it
haven't,
out.
right, figure it out, but we haven't proactively given you the tools to be successful. Because the biggest problem I have with the suicide epidemic is most of the efforts people have
Mhm.
are reactive.
Yes.
It's after it's already happened and we've lost them already. And so that's a problem for me
Yes.
because I've almost lost my battle twice. And so I carry this torch very personal. This is a personal battle for me so I can make it where we don't lose so many because I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
And I want to say I'm the lucky one because I was unsuccessful. But I am the only reason I say that I was blessed to experience that is because I understand what it's like for those that we've lost. I understand what the final thoughts are before you leave this world.
Yeah.
I've been there. And so I can genuinely say I understand that pain. But yeah, you're right. The VA's not taking care of them, right? So we're indoctrinated when you come in, right? And as you know this, because you were married to a soldier.
Oh,
Um,
I don't know a whole lot. That's the problem is I got him after he was done. After,
okay.
yeah, I got him after.
Okay. Well, so and so maybe this can help you a little bit as well. But so we're very indoctrinated when we come in. They tell us how to deal with, how to silence your emotions to achieve the mission, right? You got targets you have to hit. You have to do this certain stuff, and you have to put your emotions to the side so they don't play a factor into it. But so that's a big problem, though, is now I was in for, I don't know how long he was in for. How long was he in for?
5 years.
Okay. So I was in for 10, and 27 months of that was in a combat theater. And so my problem was I was taught how to to behave myself in a combat situation and how to act when my fight or flight response got triggered to keep myself alive. But I wasn't taught how to de-escalate that fight or flight when I returned home and took the uniform off.
Yeah.
And I think that is a major issue in our warriors coming home because we don't understand how to just because everything over there your head's on a swivel. And I explain this to people that your fight or flight response of how quickly you get angry or how quickly you lose composure, right?
Mhm.
So I used to when I came in, it took a lot to get me upset, or when I got out, that was not the case.
Yeah.
Any little thing would make me snap. And just so
Control them.
did you see that activity kind of in Clinton when like there's just the smallest thing would kind of push him over the edge?
Yeah, when we first met, no. I think he was hiding all that because, why do you want to show that right out the gate? But as time progressed, yes.
Right. It's a real thing. It's we're not they know and what my issue with this is the chain of command and the units know months before that person gets out. They know they're not staying in, they know they're not re-enlisting, right? They often put them on a rear detachment unit so they can out process.
Yeah.
So when they're in the rear detachment unit, why aren't we giving them the resources? Why aren't we giving them a paper and saying, hey, this is mental health clinicians that take TRICARE that you can go see, make you an appointment now. This is for your family. If you're having issues in your family, here's you some family therapist. Send them to a professional, not that crap the Army units do, but
Yeah.
send them to like a professional consulting service and help them learn what careers they may could take.
Yeah. I think you
You
need
know?
to start at reversing their nervous system and kind of settling it because your nervous system controls your whole body, whether you admit it or not. It controls everything. And so I think calming your nervous system, it should be the first thing they addressed at least 6 months before they get out, at
Yeah,
minimum.
right. Well, then they would be more, their ability to deal with certain traumatic events would be less severe. I'm not going to say they never go away, but you could deal with them more. You could deal with them with more a proper scenario.
You can notice it and feel that your nervous system's in fight or flight and be able to bring it back down. That's something I've learned in my healing journey is I had from this event in my life, I had enormous amounts of PTSD. And I've had to rewire my entire nervous system because I couldn't get out of bed for a year.
Right.
So I really feel like that would help a lot.
And that would help the families.
Yes.
You see, and if we could offer that, if you open it up to the service members, give it to the family in a group thing, so the families can learn how to do it as well.
Yeah.
Because that's another issue is when we feel like we can't talk to our families or no one understands the problems that we're going through,
Mhm.
we're quiet. And so we don't give our families the chance to support us. You know? Do you feel like there was something that kind of there where you saw him struggling, but you knew he was kind of keeping it bottled in because he didn't want to affect y'all?
Always, always. He didn't want, I don't know if he thought his feelings or thoughts weren't valid, but he never wanted to put that on anyone, let alone me and the kids. He didn't want, he was a strong man. He was the protector. He didn't want to feel vulnerable, I don't think.
That's that's credible. That's I think I've felt I don't I like doing these interviews as well because when I hear some of this stuff talked about, it resonates within me because I don't think about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And when I hear it, it's like, holy crap, like that's real,
Yeah.
you know? So let's get into some of the questions now because we've touched on the statistics. Everyone can see the problems that we're facing, but now we want to focus this more on your story, right? Um, and your voice, your purpose, because my voice and my purpose is not going to impact others like yours will, and so we understand that. What's that?
I'll do my best. If I can
You
get
got
words
this.
out, if I can get words out, we'll do it.
You got it. All right. So, um, we're going to start off with like just the basics because none of us, if I didn't meet Clinton and a lot of people listening to this didn't, what was he like and how would you describe him to those of us that never got the chance to meet him?
He was amazing. He was, he'd give you the shirt off his back. He was the most adventurous man I've ever met before in my life. He was competitive for sure. Um, and he had the biggest heart. He loved everyone, even if you did him wrong. Like he could barely hold a grudge. He just loved everyone. He brought out the best in me.
Right.
He was amazing.
Did you, now, did you see some of that, I guess, as his mental health conditions deteriorated, did you see some of these characteristics start slipping, or did he carry those characteristics all the way through?
No, he got a little bitter. He was a little upset about a lot of things. He wasn't as, I guess, empathetic to other people's lives or situations anymore. Um, Looking back now, I can see that. We were going through a rough situation, so I just chalked it up to that while it was happening. But looking back, I can see it kind of
Yeah.
just him falling and
Right.
me not noticing.
Right. And it's not a flaw to you at all. That's not why we bring this up, but we we want others to hear this and maybe they notice some things like this and then it's their early advance system where they can say, "Hey, something's not right in my loved one,"
Yeah, if
you
it
know?
starts coming, I guess when you can see the light slowly, they're angry all the time.
Right.
The spark starts to fall, and you can chalk it up to a lot of things, but always, I guess looking back, always address it. Don't just leave it to maybe that's just what it is.
Right. So saying that, I'm asking this as a because we've Here's in the Sky's got a big event coming up in March. And so we're going to be putting out more information on that. Do you feel as a survivor and a spouse to this that if we could educate more families and how post-traumatic stress looks and what it looks like in triggers and loved ones and how it affects families, if we could educate more families on that, do you think we could start making a measurable impact in this problem?
Absolutely. Everything's education. So if you don't know, you don't know. And you need to, you can't see it if you don't know what you're looking for, essentially. So if people are educated and they know the signs, and not just, there are general signs, but there are certain like key measurements that you can tell. I mean, psychologists do it all the time. There is a method to this. And if we educate people even in the smallest amount, they can see before it happens, or at least some of the signs to be able to
Right.
help them get help.
Or initiate the conversations that get them the help.
Yeah.
So we are Heroes in the Sky is partnering up with Mission Phoenix here in March 28th of 2026. And so we are doing exactly just that. We are bringing families together, veterans, first responders, and their families. And it's a free event. We're not charging anybody for it. All you have to do is make it here. It's in Savannah, it'd be in Savannah. And we're using a room in the college that'll hold over 100 people, and we're going to need to fill that room up. But that's what we're doing. We're educating people on post-traumatic stress and the ripple effects of how it breaks through families. Because one of the things we talk about and we see, if you're kind of if you're kind of keen to some of these interactions, is were there, I guess here's a tough question for you. When you saw Clinton's mental health start deteriorating, did it produce strain in your relationship? Were there times that you felt like it was just real tough?
Yeah. For the last year of his life, we were kind of, it was like a up and down roller coaster. It was, we had talked about divorce at multiple points. It was, and that's, he loved me big. Like if you asked anybody, he would have screamed my name from the mountaintops. And so the last year was just really hard.
Right. And I guess that's the corroboration we're trying to make here is that's why we feel this education would be impactful,
Yeah.
because a lot of people don't talk about the high divorce rates when our veterans' mental health and first responders' mental health starts deteriorating, when we start losing communication with that person because we just don't know how. A big thing is walking on eggshells.
Mhm.
Like you just feel, yeah. So did you feel like there was times in that last year where y'all were both walking on eggshells to try to communicate with each other?
Um, Honestly, no. We are both stubborn, headstrong people. So it was more of a pushback as it towards the very end. I walked on eggshells because I couldn't breathe without him getting agitated. But for the majority of it, and if I could go back and do that again, I wouldn't have. But us being so headstrong, we just bumped heads.
Right.
That's what we did.
Well, and that's you got two type A personalities, you
Yeah.
know. And that's just sometimes how it happens. But no, that's the goal is we want to highlight the friction in the families that people don't see. The high divorce rates, the people walking on eggshells, the lack of communication. And so we want to use that and create an educational piece where our families and warriors can come and learn how to strengthen their relationships, not be not have division, but we want to unify those relationships. So that's that
The key to that.
yeah. And so that's our goal for this. You know, and we're bringing in someone who's done over 6,000 hours of research with post traumatic stress. And so definitely if you're listening to this, if you can make it, we definitely it's going to be a great event. But let's move on. So what are some of the favorite memories? You know, you have everyone has those memories that you just they're imprinted on your brain. So, you know, in the short time that you did have a life with Clinton, what are some of the favorite memories that you had?
It's so we had some of our, our heart to hearts were really nice, just hanging out. But as a family, he was a giant child. So we'd go, we are a theme park family. We're in Southern California, so we're close to everything. We go to Disneyland and he's on the teacups with our daughter, just spinning it. Just we're
Right.
at Universal Studios and he's carrying her around on his shoulders. Just little things. It's just
Right.
the little things.
Right. Especially the interactions with the kid and that really making the dedication to the family.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, so we've heard all the stuff that made him great and his bubbly personality. Now kind of some of the points of this is now we have to get into the tough stuff. So we can one get your amplify your voice, but also create a deterrence value here too. So if people are listening to it, they'll hear your words, and maybe your story will keep someone else from achieving this tragic goal. So looking back, we've talked a little bit about the signs, but can you specifically see some of the signs that he was struggling internally? Like, and when did those signs start?
Um, I want to say they started really hard, like you could see them without even really looking about 6 months before. And he just withdrew. He just stopped that. You can almost see the light just sucked out of his eyes. And I thought, he's just having problems at work. He hated his job. But it was more than that.
Yeah, yeah, a lot deeper than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the discontent with the job didn't help.
No, it did not.
That just adds additional stressors to this emotion. I call it an emotional palette because basically we've got all these emotions running through our head that we really don't know how to deal with, and we're adding more stressors to it, and so it's always detrimental when we have those. So um, did you feel like your friends and family really came together and supported you after this, or was there more of you felt like isolation? Because a lot of we hear a mixed bag. We hear families talk that, oh, our community support was great, but then we hear the other side where nobody called to check on me, my family didn't call to check on me, I lost friends because of this. So how was your experience like with that after his passing?
Mixed. So he worked so a little background. I worked for a sales company that sold directly to one customer, and he worked for that customer. So that customer really rallied behind me. They basically own the local church, so they gave us the location. They donated the pastor. They did all the things for us. My family didn't show up to the funeral. So it's very much a mixed bag. I mean, granted, my grandmother's old, but the rest of them didn't show up till weeks later after it was already over. And then everyone kind of hung around and checked on me while I was in my secondhand suicide stage. Um,
Right.
they were there for that. But once I started to not be crazy, is what I call it, is when they all fell away.
Mhm.
When I wasn't fun anymore, they didn't want to
Right.
stay. When it got really sad and I couldn't get out of bed, nobody was there.
It's isolation.
Yeah.
And that's what we typically see in these grief situations is a form of isolation and that isolation is a real factor of why a female widow is 3 times more likely to die by the same fate.
Yeah.
And it's
My best friend, she was there. She was here in 60 seconds after the ambulance was here at my house. She was right there by my side. And then once I started to actually, I guess, emotionally fall apart and let myself be sad instead of running from it, she left.
yeah,
Yeah. And that was hard. So it's like a
right,
loss on top of a loss.
right. Yeah, and you lose confidence.
Mhm.
You're already in a situation that you've lost confidence. You couldn't. I guess there's the lack of confidence there that you lost your warrior, and you could have done more, or I mean, and so, so you're already dealing with the lack of confidence in your personal life and in the intimate life, but then now you're the friends that are supposed to be there for you, you don't feel like you can. And then when you lose those, you really don't. I mean, in my eyes, it sounds like you feel like you couldn't go to anybody because
It's
if the people,
isolating. Sure.
right, if the people that swore they would be there for you didn't,
Wrong.
they leave, then how does that make you feel about reaching out to somebody else? They're just going to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's the isolation we try to highlight here because
Yeah.
it's a big factor. And um so how has his passing impacted you and the children, your family life? Because we know I had young children, okay, and I know that they're naturally curious when something around them shifts, like something's different, something's not the same, and so you're going to get those questions on repeat of mom, why is this? Mom, why is this? Mom, and so how have those questions and conversations with your children influence your grief journey?
Um, so my son was 17 when this happened, and my daughter was 9. So my son, he knew what was happening. There was no question. He was very upset, and it altered so much of his childhood. He looked up to this man. He's not his father, but he took him like he was his own.
Yeah.
And my daughter shut down. She didn't know how to handle it, so she shut down. Her whole personality has changed. She won't talk to anybody. I'm certain she feels abandoned. We're working on therapy for her, but they've changed completely since this happened. It's altered them in such a way. I think that breaks my heart more than anything. I'm grown. Like I mean, granted, it's awful for me too, but they're babies. They're children. And it's hard to see.
Yeah. Especially the children you raised together, and when you see that shift in personality, it's I could that would I personally have never felt that, and I don't act like I have, but seeing your raw emotions, you can see how. And I think what I really would like to get from this is anybody watching this is understand that if you are contemplating this act and you have children and a family, please know that that pain doesn't end with you. When you, if you think leaving this world due to the pain makes the pain go away, it doesn't.
It
Um,
transfers it.
yeah, it transfers to our families that just as we're talking to right now. So we do want to take a pause right here and say, hey, if you're in that dark spot, please listen to these words. Listen to the courageous words that Alexa's talking about, and let it and just let it make a change in your life, because the the families are never the same. This pain transfers to them. So so with your you've dealt with, you're seeing your kids change personalities, and they, are you starting to see a better, are they starting to come around more the more
My
you,
son does.
okay,
My son, he's become more, it's less of a shock now and not as, I guess, an emotional slap in the face every time he thinks about it, I guess is what you could say. But my daughter still refuses to talk about it.
right,
She refuses to. Whenever I talk about him, she just doesn't want to talk.
right. Does she get up and like leave, or she just shuts down right where she's at?
She just shuts down right where she's at.
Yeah. And that's a heavy toll on a mother,
Yeah.
seeing your child shut down, you
Hey,
know.
no, she's not shutting down because she doesn't love her. She loved her dad. Like, she
Right.
loves her dad. She doesn't know how to process all that in her tiny little brain. Like, they're not meant to.
No. Well, we're not meant to.
Yeah.
We're not meant to deal with heavy trauma like that. And so when we are dealt with these situations, that's why there's such a problem, you know. Um, so you mentioned, are there moments now where you could see your healing process start, where you kind of started to see the light, and kind of explain that to us? Like what does that look like?
So it's a lot of work. A lot of work. Towards the end of my secondhand suicide run is what I like to call it. I actually threw myself in a mental health facility, which was, I call it the crazy house. My kids call it vacation because it was a beautiful place in Florida with like 3 stories in Key Largo. It was beautiful. But they really kind of made me address the situation. And I think that's what you have to do. You can't run from it. You have to take it head on. Again,
Hmm.
rewire your nervous system and be able to walk yourself through those feelings of emotions and let them happen. Don't
Hmm.
stop them. You have to feel the emotion, let it go through you, and let it pass because it's not forever.
Right. And you mentioned that you would know you needed to go, so you kind of put yourself in that facility. How has your life changed as a person? Are you different now? Is your personality different that you've lost him and you've dealt with this tragedy?
So my whole personality, I'm still am, but very loud, outgoing. But when he died, I lost my security. I lost my identity. I had to find that all over again. And I'm not out of this. I promise you I'm not out. I'll never be out of this. But in coming away from the laying in bed all day and not being able to function, I've found a new purpose.
Right.
I'm leaving my job. I'm starting over. I'm going back to school. I'm doing all kinds of things that I wouldn't have done before. So I guess I'm more compassionate, especially what I'm going to go into is I have more compassion for people than I had before, where I was just aggressive and loud. Now I'm more gentle with people, but I'm still loud.
And that's fine. You'll never lose the true person there, right? But some personality shifts. So what are you going to school for?
I'm actually going to school to be a nurse. So I've always
Okay.
wanted to do that, and specifically psych nurse. That's
Awesome.
I'm going to take this, and this didn't happen for nothing. I won't let him die in vain. So I'm going to become a psych nurse, and then I'm hoping to work with the VA or whoever I can to really focus on veterans, and that's
That's that's awesome goals there, especially to go into the psych side of it. You're fueled personally by loss.
yeah.
And so I think that, people talk about heroes in the sky all the time, and why we have a genuine passion to do it is because I've personally felt the dark and despair, so I have a genuine passion to do this. And I think you're going to be highly successful in that career because you're fueled by loss. Like you're fueled by personal experiences that you want to make better.
Yeah, my
And
thought
so,
behind it is I'm not just going to be book educated. I have
right.
firsthand experience. I know what it looks like.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
gives compassion and more empathy when instead of just throwing a book at someone and be like,
Right.
you have this diagnosis. No, I got you. We'll take care of this.
Right. Yeah. And that's in that field that's needed,
Yeah.
especially with the uncertainty of certain mental disorders and how they affect people. That's definitely needed in that. Just to if anyone, especially I can imagine if you've been recently diagnosed with a mental condition or diagnosis and you don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
That could probably be really problematic and traumatizing to somebody that just got diagnosed with something severe like that. So your passion and care is going to go a long way there. I definitely can see that. Um, so What do we, as you, we're talking about this, right? What do you wish people better understood about suicide and grief? What would you, those that are watching right now, that may be feeling the same way you are, that maybe that experience the same loss, or what would those ones that haven't felt it, but maybe they're seeing signs in their partner that something's not right? What would you tell someone about the grief between with the grief with suicide and loss? Did you know?
My first thing is if you're if you think they're showing signs, if you even suspect it, start the conversation.
Right.
With if you're watching this, you obviously have some inclination that something might be happening. Just start the conversation. You don't have to throw it in their face. Just be like, "Hey, how you doing?" And check in every day. How Start a daily check-in, especially with your spouse. "Hey, how are we feeling today?" Just checking in, and it creates this repetition, and they're more likely to open up. Looking back, I if I would have done that, if I would have knew then what I know now, I could have fixed so much. And I know you're not supposed to do that, but I'm still going to. And then in grief, you're not alone. I know it looks like you're alone, and even looking out, you feel like you're on an island by yourself. There are so many of us. So many, and unfortunately, that's how it is. But you just need to look in the right places or find one resource that'll put you into a situation. I joined a Facebook group of women whose husbands committed suicide, and the women in there that are veteran widows is exponential. And we've kind of grouped ourselves to share our stories, and they also felt alone. So it's not that we're not out there. You just got to look a little bit and know that you are not alone.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that, and hopefully, people listening will definitely take that in, and apply it. Um, and so, I guess we're getting close to the end here. Been about on an hour, but we did want to highlight one thing as well before we went into the closing and gave you some closing thoughts. Um, so, Heroes in the Sky Foundation, as you're aware, we've talked about this, will present Battle Vest 2204 to Nautical Salute. Okay. Um, we will be honoring Sergeant Clinton D. Lambert, United States Army, and 18 other warriors on that vest that lost their internal wars. If if you're listening and you want to attend that, you want to know where it's at, it will be in Leesburg, Florida, November 8th, 2025 at 2 o'clock. And it's going to be at the AMVETS Post 2006 in Leesburg, Florida. So yes, I know you had asked that question. So we would love to see if you and your family could make it. We would love to see y'all there. Because we are honoring Clinton and 19 other and 18 other warriors. And we just wanted to announce that as like a special announcement. So you heard it and you knew it was happening, but then everyone, if you when this comes out, if you share it, they can know as well.
Yeah, I'll be
So
there.
outstanding. Is there anything that you would like to talk about that we didn't cover that you want people to know before we close this session out?
Just to reach out, just even a spouse, veteran, law enforcement, just reach out. I know it's hard. I know in theory it sounds great, but just say something. Just say something.
Right. And then what's your hope for families as we embark on these new journeys to create prevention efforts in families? What do you hope you see? What are some things that an organization like Heroes in the Sky could do to make an impact in families? How could we make the biggest impact?
Biggest impact would be to make families like mine less and less frequent. But beyond that, it would be making these families feel seen, making these families know that there's a community of people that will support them. They don't have to do this alone. They don't have to sit in their grief by themselves. People will support them.
Right. And then that's kind of one of the goals for this video series too, is for for us to be able to highlight your stories and other people's grief stories in for that exact purpose.
Mhm.
So people can watch it and you don't it's not and it's really not about the it is about the people watching, but it's about internal reasons too.
Yeah.
We want you as the family to feel exactly like you just said, to feel recognized, to feel wanted, to feel that you're not isolated in this grief and that you have a community around you that will listen to you.
Yeah.
Because if we can do that and we can make that widespread, we can reduce the suicide rates in the family populations. So, well, awesome. Well, we'll go into this. Thank you so much for what you've discussed with us today. I know it wasn't easy. Um, we know the emotional tears are, um, those are strong and there's real emotions, raw emotions. And we hope that people see that. And we hope that people understand the severity of what we're dealing with. So,
That's cool. People need
yeah,
to see it. They don't see it, they'll never know.
right. Especially in the family environment. We don't, there's not a lot of widows that are in family and parents that are given the platform to tell their stories. And that's why we hope we can make that more widespread and less stigma.
Yeah. I hope this helps.
Absolutely. It definitely will. And what I want people to know before I go to the closing remarks is I want people to admire the courage of our families.
Yes.
We want to admire, Alexa's courage and all the families that came before her that had the courage to come talk about this when it wasn't an easy topic. And then we just want let that fuel you if you're listening to this and you are a family that's affected by this epidemic. I'm pretty sure that Alexa would always be there to give you
Reach out.
advice. Absolutely. She'd be
Absolutely.
there.
I'm ready for it. I've
Yep.
I've been training for this.
There you go. So reach out to Alexa. You can reach out to me um, at, go to heroesinthesky.org and you can get a hold of us. But definitely. So we'll go into the closing. At Heroes in the Sky Foundation, we do believe that deterrence comes through truth and honoring the fallen and empowering our families and advancing awareness and prevention are not just goals, they are mission. So we're going to put every effort, every energy, everything we can into this mission to make an impact, to be the warrior's voice that we've lost, and to be the family's support system as well.